Hello there, Mr. Lee here, and welcome to the fourth lesson of the Sikhism topic, where we're going to be introduced to the holy book of Sikhism, and we're going to be guided in the journey through the place of worship for the Sikhs. Welcome. Hello there. Just a bit distracted there. I was just reading a book about Greek and Roman mythology, and there's quite a parallel there because for the Greeks and Romans, when they listen or read about myths, that's how they learn about the sort of things that they should or shouldn't do in their life. There's a lot of tales about what happens to people who have done something that they shouldn't do and are punished by the gods. But the Greeks are not very good at that, I have to say. They also have a few tales of what you should do in your life. The Greeks are quite a punishing sort. Now, why have I raised that? Because actually the Sikhs rely on their holy book to provide guidance as well. Thankfully, the holy book of Sikhism is more about the sort of things you should do in your life and about the sort of things that God and Guru say in terms of how you should live your life. Yeah? Not so much punishments, I don't think, but it might make it less interesting because, myths are full of stories, whereas the Sikh book is full of rules and guidances. Admittedly, I haven't read through as much of the Sikh book as I should. I've probably read more Greek mythology. Let's focus on the Sikh book and let's focus on them in a moment. Because first, you should take a recap quiz. We keep doing these quizzes at the start. It'll be good for you because this whole topic works as a whole, and the more you remember from earlier, the more you can develop it in today's lessons.
On page 1 of the worksheets and also underneath the YouTube video, there is a link for you to click on to go onto Microsoft Forms. You can also take a photo of the QR code to generate the right link for you. Once you've clicked on that link, it should go to a sort of Microsoft page where it asks you to sign in. Use your school email address to sign in, and then it should redirect you, once you've typed in your email address, to an RM Unify page where you can type in your password to your school email address. Once you've done that, it should direct you straight away to the form, which is like a sort of quiz, which you can see on the page in front of you.
How did you get on with the quiz? Remember that you can do the quiz as many times as you want. It's not a test, it doesn't go on to any sort of record of how well you've done, but it is there to help you revise. So I think I've changed the settings so that you can do the quiz as many times as you want, because every time you get a question wrong, there's a learning opportunity for you there. Okay, I want you to picture that the year of the year, and the year is 1708. By this point, Sikhism has gone through 9 gurus, and we're on the 10th guru, Guru Gobind Singh. You remember from the last lesson that Guru Gobind Singh at the Vaisakhi began the Khalsa, the community of Sikhs who have committed their life to the religion and wears the 5Ks as a symbol of that commitment. Okay, it's been a few years since the Guru Gobind has been Guru, and in 1708 he realized that he wouldn't recover from a wound that he has received from battle. So he thought, because every single guru chooses their successor, right? Successor, the person who's going to take on that role after you. So he has to think, who should be the guru next? And he decided that the Guru Granth Sahib would be the final guru. So the next guru will be the final guru. How does that work? Well, this guru is someone who potentially can live immortally and someone who has many versions. Versions is the wrong word, but like many identical copies. Because this next guru, the Guru Granth Sahib, is a book. And so Guru Gobind Singh decided the next leader of Sikhism, the next person who's going to be the ultimate source of wisdom and knowledge about Sikhism, is going to be a book. And this book will, like a living person, like a living guru, this book will lead the Sikh community and teach the Sikh community. And he made sure that, there can be no contradiction of what the leader says, and that the Guru Granth Sahib, if ever anyone needs to make a copy of it, should be exact copies. Now, over the next few minutes of the video, we're going to look at some of the features of the Guru Granth Sahib and how it is treated. On your worksheets, you will notice I've talked through page 2 of your worksheets. So page 3 is the space where you can make some notes on the Guru Granth Sahib based on what I'm about to say, and also 2 videos which I'll prompt you to watch in a moment.
Let anyone who wishes to see the Guru come and see the Guru. Whoever wishes to hear the Guru's words should wholeheartedly read the Granth or listen to the Granths being read. The Guru Granth Sahib has the word Sahib added at the end as a term of respect. So Guru Granth is his actual name and Sahib is a term of respect. Sikhs often use words added at the end of a name to show certain things. So when you studied the Khalsa, you will know that members of Khalsa has the word Kaur or a Singh added depending on whether they're female or male. Every single copy of the Guru Granth Sahib is identical, so they all have 1,430 pages and they're all written in the Gurmukhi script, the scripts that Punjabs use when they write. It means that there are no translations of the copies, or rather, even if there is a translated copy, it's not seen as in the same way that a Gurmukhi written Guru Granth Sahib is. It doesn't have the same effect, it doesn't have the same respect, it doesn't have the same authority as one that is written in Gurmukhi. It's been the Guru since 1708 and it's often looked after with a chowri, and the chowri is a sort of stick with some brush at the end. It's more for ceremonial purposes. In Punjab at the time, in the area where Sikhism was founded, there were a lot of flies and things, and when holy men were speaking, a chowri is used to ensure they're not disturbed by any insects or anything like that. Given that the Guru Granth Sahib is treated as if it were a human, it also have the same respect and is also looked after just as if it was a holy man. Treatment, and you can see a chowri there with the hair towards the end, also like brush thing, and also a ceremonious handle. Sikh worshippers bow to the Guru as they enter the room with the Guru in it. This may be in a temple where there's a big hall dedicated to the Guru Granth Sahib, or in a private room in the house. The Guru Granth Sahib, even in the house, also needs its own room. Sikh worshippers always sits below the Guru. That is to say, the Guru Granth Sahib is always on a platform above the worshippers. Sikh worshippers don't point their feet at the guru. When they sit down, they have to sit slightly sideways so their feet are pointing elsewhere. The guru is covered with a rectangular silk cloth or the rumala when it is not being read. So you can see under the Guru Granth Sahib in the image here, there is a cloth, and that would go over it when it's not being read. If you like, when it's resting. And you use the chowri over the guru to ensure that it's not disturbed by insects or flies. Now I appreciate me talking through these points are not necessarily going to bring it to life, so I've prepared 2 videos here. Hopefully so far you will have made some notes on what it is, how it is treated with respect, and how it is used onto page 3 of your worksheets. If you need to go back, you can, and if you need to pause, you can. But once you're ready, I'd like to introduce you to video 1, which is from BBC Bite Size, and a little girl would take you through how the Guru Granth Sahib is a central part of the family life, having a room at the top of the house, which you can see in the image there. Once you've seen that, there will be video 2 as well, which is a slightly longer video on the Guru Granth Sahib, the Sikh holy book. It covers a similar sort of information, but again another way to bring the book to life. Make sure you add any information that you haven't added yet to page 3 of the book, and once you've seen both videos and added that information, you can unpause this video and carry on. So I welcome you to click on the links, which is probably at the bottom of this video on YouTube as well, and watch those videos. With page 3 of the worksheets now complete, you should move on to page 4, where we discuss the Guru Granth Sahib at the Gurdwara. There is a video from BBC 2's Belief file which will help you to complete the worksheets, and the link is at the bottom of this video and in the description section, or also on your worksheets. The video is broadly split into 2 parts. After the character entered the Gurdwara, there is a section on the room in which the Guru Granth Sahib remains. After that, the presenter visits a langar, the community kitchen. When you watch the video of the section on the Guru Granth Sahib, there may be some repetition of things that you've done in terms of how we treat the Guru Granth Sahib, how Sikhs treat the Guru Granth Sahib, and the decoration and presentation of the Guru Granth Sahib within the room. So before this video, you can just think back, what sort of things am I expecting to see? And you can tick them off mentally. But while you're watching the video, I also want you to focus on how people interact with the Guru Granth Sahib. So now we know what sort of preparation is in place for having the Guru Granth Sahib in the room. You can focus more on the interaction. For the second part in the langar, take down the information that is asked of you in the worksheets. We will come back to the langar in 2 lessons time. So when you're ready, pause this video and complete page 4 of your worksheet. With page 4 of your worksheet complete, we move on to page 5, which looks a little bit like this. Okay, on page 5 of the worksheets, you have task 3, which lists a list of points that someone can make to show that either a human guru is better or a book guru is better. If you imagined that you've been asked a question, okay, who would I rather be the leader of my religion? Would I rather the leader of my religion be a book or a human person? Then depending on your answer, you might make either one half of these points or the other half of these points. So each one of these points are in support of a book guru or a human guru. Read through it. If you think the points prove that a human guru is better, then put an H next to it. If it proves that a book guru is better, put a B next to it. And I will just talk you through the first one as an example. So you can see that on the first one, the point is that you can have many copies, which makes it easier to access. Now, what the person would say, what the person who made this point would say, is that if you have just one human guru, then there's only one person, and he can only be in one place at one time. But if you have many different copies of the same book, many people can access it at the same time, even though they will have to access the copy that's right in front of them. And so having many copies means that it would be easier for Sikhs to find out the sort of things that they need to know about. It's easier for them to find guidance. It's easier for them to know how to live their life. So a book copy is better because you can have many copies. That's why the letter B has been put next to number 1, because this point can be used to prove that a book copy is better. Have a go at the other questions. You might want to pause the video now and give yourself maybe 5 minutes to have a go at it. If you have some time left over, you can think about how someone would explain the answer to their questions as well. And we'll check the answers in a moment. Okay, I'm assuming that you've had enough time to complete this, so I'll move on to the next slide and we'll look through it one by one. So if you have a purple pen or some sort of purple thing, ink that you're typing with, then you can get that out now. Okay, question 2 then, or point 2. If you don't understand a point, he can explain it to you. Well, only a human person can explain it to you, or only a human person can answer anything that you don't understand specifically. Now, I'm not saying that the book wouldn't explain anything. Obviously, the more detail one provides in the text, the more explanation there is. But what you don't understand might be unique to you. And so having a person there to address the things that you're concerned about, or to address the specific misunderstanding that you have, might be better, and you might need that because you have a unique circumstance for which you need guidance. It's a bit the same as teaching, really. If you have a specific question, you can ask your teacher, and perhaps as much as we try to be detailed in setting our lessons, we haven't gone through every single point that people might raise. But that reminds me, if you do have a question, do email me or your RS teacher so they can help you. Alright? Okay. Point 3. He can understand your personal circumstance. That is related to point 2. So he can give you advice specifically, whereas a book can just print out what it should print out, and you can only read what's written in front of you. No extra information about how it relates to you. It's his written noun, so it cannot change its mind after a while. Obviously, what a guru says is supposed to be definitive, but at least when you look back at a book, the book will say the same thing as it did the last time you look back at it, so in that sense it never changes. That might be useful. I don't know if the gurus ever contradicted each other, but in theory they could, whereas a book certainly wouldn't do that because they're identical copies. Written words can be interpreted in different ways, but if someone says something, you can ask them to explain it. So a human guru can explain what they say. It's a bit similar to point number 2, but not totally. It's like you have a rule in place, but maybe there are sometimes circumstances where that rule shouldn't apply, and so you can ask for guidance from a person, from an authoritative person, and they can tell you whether that is actually the case. So words can be interpreted in different ways, but at least a person will tell you, yes, that's alright, or no, that's not alright, and they can deal with any sort of special circumstances. It's like, this video is made during the coronavirus crisis, isn't it? And I'm sure there's a lot of rules that will need to be changed to reflect that. But if the rules can be changed in time, at least a person can tell you whether something is acceptable or not. It won't get killed by the enemy. Sikh gurus have a track record of being killed by the enemy who doesn't like the fact that they believe in a different religion. A book doesn't have that issue, and also when you have multiple copies of books, it's very hard for every single copy to be destroyed. Number 7, he can make his teachings relevant to current issues. I know I talked about coronavirus earlier. If you look to the book for guidance, the book will say exactly the same thing as it did before the coronavirus started. But if you ask a person, they can perhaps explain a few things to you about what rules should apply now. So, you would hope that whatever is written down by Guru Gobind Singh and people before them would be relevant throughout time, but if it isn't, they might be less useful to you when you want to know what to do in the present circumstances. Okay, once you've completed this point, and you should have checked your answers and see if they're correct, you can decide whether you feel it would be better for the guru to be a book or to be a human. Pick the one point that you think is most important for what you believe in. If you believe that a book guru is better, then you'd pick a point that proves a book guru is better, the most important one. If you believe that a human guru is better, you'll pick a point that proves that a human guru is better in your explanation of your views. So pick one point that you think is most important to illustrate your view, and under task 4, say what you believe in yourself and explain that most important point. Try and stick with the PEA structure, which I've listed on the screen here, and it's also available on the next page of your worksheets. The point is what's already written on the page. The evidence will be some sort of information to back it up. The analysis will be how that bit of information answers the question, how that bit of information shows that it's better to have a human guru or a book guru. Okay, you may need to pause to complete this, and I would say about 5 to 7 minutes. There are also some stretch and challenge questions for students who, specifically MAP students, who will want to complete it. Okay, so pause to give yourself time to complete this.
With page 5 done, you can now move on to page 6. And on page 6, there's a description of task 5. You will see an explanation of the point, evidence and analysis structure and how you can apply it there. Task 5, and actually a lot of this lesson is very much to get you into thinking about an argument that has sort of 2 extremes to it. There you are, that's the camera. So like it would give you a statement and you can either strongly agree or strongly disagree with it. Earlier you had the question about whether a book guru is better or a human guru is better, and you realise that the answer is probably somewhere in the middle. Here you've got a question that you're going to consider that also has that binary sense, a strongly agree and a strongly disagree sense. The question that you're going to look at is at the top of the next page, page 7, and it will ask you, or it will give you the statement, visiting a Gurdwara is the most important practice for Sikhs. Okay. And you can either totally agree or totally disagree, though we suspect your answer is going to be somewhere in the middle. So you're going to say probably that visiting the Gurdwara is important, but it's not the most important thing because there are other things. Or you might say it is just about the most important things, but that's not to say that other things aren't important as well. So the question then about Gurdwara and whether it's important. On the next page, on page 7, you will find a table with some possible points you can make, an agree and a disagree column. What I want you to think of is this: for the first part, for like 80% of the time when you answer this question, 80% of the things that you write, you'll be writing it in a form where you're just raising those points. They're not necessarily things that you would believe in, they might be, but they're not necessarily things that you would believe in. The key thing is to know what would someone say if they're on one side of the argument, and what would people on the other side of the argument say, and then in that final 20% you can then say what your point of view is. So we're going to go through all the points there in a moment. Now, there's a home and away option for you. If you feel more confident, or if you're a math student, you can attempt the away method. Otherwise, you can attempt a home method. They're pretty similar, it's just the order in which you do things. So, for those who are away, the away task is for you to actually fill in as much of that table as you can first, before you watch the video. The home task is that you watch the video and you fill in the table as much as you can. If you feel you're able to, you coming up with your own points is a good skill to have, and it's a higher level skill, but we appreciate that not everyone would be able to think of all the points that are possible just at this time. So you can choose between your home task and your away task. So, discussion on the question coming up. If you'd like to do the away task, you should certainly pause now, and then when you feel ready, continue with the video.
What follows is some intellectual rambling. It isn't necessarily straightforward to know which box the information go in. Just do your best to record the information. You can make rough notes during the video and reorder them at the end, or fill in the table at the end of the video. Right, to answer the questions today and to join us in discussing this question about the Gurdwara, we've got Mr. Ainsley, so namaste.
Namaste. Namaste.
Been told this is the social distancing thing rather than shaking hands, which
well,
means we have to wash our hands more often.
Me, so.
So the topic today, Mr. Ainsley, is about the Gurdwara, and we're thinking about whether visiting the Gurdwara is the most important practice for Sikhs, more important than other practices. So what sort of points do you think people will make when they ask this question?
This is a usual GCSE question 12 marker that we're used to seeing, and the point of it is for students to be able to show their knowledge off, but also show that they're thinkers. It's really the only subject in the whole of all GCSEs that says, tell me what you think, how your brain works. It's easy to say, I agree, and then leave it there, and that will not get any marks out of 12 at all. What students must do is say why they agree. But every single time, even if you don't have a reason why you disagree, you must say that you do. And that shows the balanced thinking. So yeah, it is the most important for some Sikhs to visit the Gurdwara. That's how they show respect to Waheguru and Satguru, their God. But there's lots of other things as well, and I'm sure we can discuss them in a minute, unless you'd like me to give examples now. It's up to you.
Well, I don't mind, and I think, I always feel that in life it's very important to be fair and balanced, and that's what this question here is trying to bring out, isn't it? So let's just assume that, we're in a position to say that visiting Gurdwara is the most important practice. What sort of points can we make?
There's quite a few. I mean, I was very fortunate at university to visit a Gurdwara when we teacher training, and I still have that visual in my head. There's quite a few things. First of all, you walk in and you cover your hair to show respect to their God, Waheguru, which means beautiful Lord, and Satguru, which means wonderful Lord. So that's straight away. Take your shoes off in many societies, especially the karmic religions, Hinduism, Sikhism, Buddhism. It is respectful to take off your shoes to show respect to God. And then you meet in the meeting room. And we went into the big worship room, and In there, you've got the Nishan Sahib, you've got the Takht, you've got the Palki, you've got all the things like that. You've got the Raggis on the left-hand side playing the music. Men sit on the left, women sit on the right, so as not to distract each other from worship. But what really stuck in my mind, Mr. Lee, is that there was something going on, but I didn't know what it was. So we went through the main room to get into the worship room. There was nothing in the main room. We sat down, and these two people at the front stopped what they were doing, and they came and greeted us. And it turned out that we'd walked into a wedding, just randomly walked into a wedding, and the bride and groom stopped the service to greet us. Now, that's what they call sewa, selfless service. So straight away, we can say weddings take place there. Their sort of clothing identity and their ethical identity, their respect for the gods, manifested and shown there. And this sewa takes place, like I said. But weddings, Amrit, which is their equivalent of taking baptism, as students will know hopefully already, that takes place there. But also at the end, as part of their sewa, their selfless service, the bride and groom sat down with us straight after their wedding and had langar, which is a meal that is given. It was instituted by one of the Sikh gurus. And they sit down and they eat this food together. And even if Her Majesty the Queen walked in, she would sit on the floor with them as well. Everybody's equal before God in Sikhism. So all of their key beliefs, the 5Ks, the Kanga, the Kara, I can't remember them off the top of my head, Kesh, Kirpan, and the other one, which I always forget.
You didn't watch Mr. Mayers' video last week.
I always forget one. It's ridiculous. You know, part of that identity is put on and worn there as well, and shown to other people too. So yeah, that's important, really important.
I think in the next lesson, we're going to talk a little bit more about commitment, and commitment is often in the things that you do. And what you've mentioned there are a few things that allows Sikhs to show commitment. For example, the idea of equality that we covered in lesson 1, the respect for gods and the gurus, which is part of that commitment, and also sewa. So I wondered if you could perhaps explain a little bit more what sewa is, for example.
Yeah, sewa is an ancient Hindu term. It's actually from the Sanskrit from about 8,000 years ago, I believe. I don't know the actual history of it, but it's always been a central theme of Hinduism, and it's part of their karma, their good actions, and it's also part of their dharma, their duties. Sikhism came from Hinduism. It was officially established in 1699. Baisakhi was the formal establishment of that, but it is very much rooted in Hinduism. And so sewa came from Hinduism into Sikhism. Essentially, the best way to summarize it is charity. So in the same way that our word charity comes from caritas, I'm sure you can correct me on the Latin, which means selfless giving and just general kindness and goodness and being others minded. Sewa is no different. One of the main Sikh charities is Khalsa Aid, but another one is Sewa International, and it's a Hindu charity actually, but it is also brought in by Sikhism too. So that means giving food to people and not wanting any thanks back. That means giving shelter to people, not wanting any thanks back. Again, going back to when we visited the Gurdwara, the gate to the Guru, the place where Sikhs worship, that night we went to Mr. Singh. And Singh is a name that most Sikhs will take for a man, which means lion, and Kaur, which means princess for a woman. And I'd never met this man before. He was a lovely man, a doctor, and his wife was a doctor as well. And they welcomed us with open arms, and we sat down and ate food at their table with their family. And we were considered family. That is sewa. Giving money is sewa. Being a nice person, the best person you can be is sewa. Being thankful to God is sewa. Every single good action, good thoughts, and good word that we can use and do, that is sewa.
That's great. And I think perhaps in our lives, hopefully, we're doing a lot of sewa without necessarily being a Sikh. We're being charitable and kind anyway. I know in the Gurdwara, it also gives you a chance to be respectful to the Guru Granth Sahib. Why is that so important?
The Guru Granth Sahib is, it is not a book, and I know you've explained that already. It is not a book. It is a living representation of the last 3 Sikh gurus, which is the last 3 really, when they realized that there was so much conflict between the Muslim and the Sikh community at the time, and there was lots of beheading and murdering, and basically the Guru said, that's enough. And Guru Gobind Singh instituted this final book, Guru Granth Sahib, saying, see it as a living guru. It is the 11th guru. And guru means teacher, so gu means dark, and guru means light. Somebody takes people from darkness into light, which what we're doing
Enlightenment,
now,
right?
enlightenment, exactly that. What we're doing now, explaining things from a point of ignorance, and that's not rudeness, but as in, I don't know, I've ignored that knowledge, to a point of, I get this, I understand this. That is the point of Guru Granth Sahib, but the reason why they treat it with such respect is because it is a living guru. And I'm sure some of us have seen some sort of films that use sort of Prince of Persia type themes where someone is fanned, you know, the rich king or the pharaoh is fanned by those around them. And that is why they use the cowrie, which you've mentioned in your Word document of PowerPoint. In where Sikhism developed in Eastern India, Talwandi primarily, where Guru Nanak came from, and various parts around there, and then spread out. It was quite dusty. It was quite deserted, as in like a desert in many, many ways. And that would get on into a person's face, or, you know, you'd have to cover them up with a cloth to stop it going into your face. I watched Ghost Protocol Mission Impossible last night, and that's exactly what Ethan Hunt was doing. I know, it's classic. And so it's exactly that. The cowrie made from the horsehair is used to wipe all the dust and dirt off the book, because in the same way they would cover their faces to stop dust and sand getting into their mouth, they would also dust the stuff off the Guru Granth Sahib and then wrap it in a beautiful silk covering and put it to bed at night. Random fact, when they put the book to bed at night, it goes to bed on a diwan. And diwa or diva in the ancient Hindi means light. Hence we call somebody a diva nowadays. They're just, you know, they're like a luminary, a light. And the divan, which is a type of bed we have in England and across the world, is just a wooden frame with often drawers on the side. That comes from Sikhism, because the divan is the name that the book is put to bed on top of the bed, and the divan room is where it is.
I feel enlightened just as I'm sitting here. And I think one of the interesting things is when we think about whether visiting Gurdwara is important is quite similar to when we think whether actually going to school is important for learning. And I know from my experience as a year 7 tutor and teachers of every year group that people often don't understand some of the work that's been set out, some of the Word documents that's been put down, that sort of thing. Do you think it's important to, or perhaps do you think that some people would feel it's better to go to a Gurdwara in order to learn the Sikh beliefs and Sikh practices?
Yeah. I think better is very personal, isn't it? But the idea of, again, let's look at what the word means. Gurdwara. The gate to the guru. You open a gate to get to a garden. You must interact with that gate. And it's exactly the same in Hinduism. That's how you get to show worship and respect to the guru with others. I'm going to take an example from the Christian church here. You'll know, we both geek out a little bit with our Greek and Latin, and obviously your knowledge is far, far superior than mine, always will be. But the word presbyter in what's called Koine Greek, biblical Greek, means elder. Somebody who has experience, who has wisdom. And this is why our stereotypical anthropomorphic, as it's called, view of God is God the Father has a big fluffy white beard. Why? Because elderly people tend to have a big fluffy white beard. It's experience, it's knowledge, it's wisdom, it's respect. And so in the Presbyterian church, they don't have ministers, they have elders who are knowledgeable, who know the church teachings, who know through life how they should respond. It's no different in the Gurdwara. They have the people who are the ragis, the ones who play the sort of Sikh music, and they have the leaders at the front who read from the Guru Granth Sahib. Now it is pure quality, but you still need people to run the place. And so, yeah, just like your idea from school, we can all work from home. You're working from home, so am I. We're doing it now. I'd much rather be in the classroom. I'd much rather be able to respond to questions that students have right now. Some students might be thinking, but what if right now? And you and I in the classroom can respond to that. We can't now. And if a Sikh is at home worshipping by themselves, they can worship Waheguru Satguru. They can show respect. They can wear the 5Ks. They can do sewa. They can have good karma. But if they're not with other Sikhs, they can't share in that worship experience together.
Yes, and I'm definitely still working on that beard to show my antiquity, if you like. And just to say, you know, if there's any questions that's arising from this video, you want to send to us, then do feel free by email. I do agree that there's definitely a greater disconnect if you're not actually in the room, though. And you also raise an important point, because I think just with other places of worship, the idea that you're worshipping collectively brings a sense of community to what you do, right? And when you do things as a group for a collective goal, you often feel more motivated and encouraged to do it.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'll borrow the idea from Christianity. The word community is absolutely crucial. If we look at what Holy Communion is, people are just used to hearing that. That's the idea of taking the bread and the wine. Communion, they communicate with God in unity, in union. They go up, they share the same cup, they have bread from the same loaf or from the same wafer batch, depending what sort of church you go to. But that is shared. And now the equivalency is longer in Sikhism. That food is shared. That food is equal. That food is vegetarian to show that they don't think they're above the animals. It's very, very tasty. Now, here's a random thing, Mr. Lee. You know this, but our students, I don't think they would. If we were to be stuck in Leicester or Norwich or Manchester or Birmingham or Bristol or Leeds or London, wherever, and we needed something to eat, we could just go to a Gurdwara, not be a Sikh, just go to a Gurdwara and eat there.
And it's the idea that
an honor.
Everyone deserves it, isn't it? And you know, we will look at Sewa in more detail in 2 lessons time. Where we look at videos, for example, of soup kitchens being available on the street that's provided by the Sikhs, and they feel that that's part of their duty to God. Like, we've spent a lot of time talking about points that someone can make about visiting Gurdwara, but some people would probably say that actually visiting a Gurdwara is not the most important thing that Sikhs can do. What sort of points might they make then? What would they say about?
Well, I'd be looking for meta points first, and what a meta point is, it's the big idea. Now, the big
what's
idea.
The big idea then?
Well, apart from that, Buddhism doesn't have a god. Mainly, and I have to be careful here, world religions assert that God is everywhere, and God is sometimes in things. Sometimes God is beyond things. Sometimes God is both. But in Sikhism, God is everywhere, because God doesn't exist in time and space. He doesn't occupy time and space and have mass and density. God just is. And even the word exist is difficult to apply to God, because that means often in the world. God is beyond the world. So therefore, why do we need to worship him in a building? That if God is everywhere, we meet God. There's a Hindu belief called Antaryami. And Antaryami is the belief that God is worshipped through the heart. God exists in the heart. Well, if God exists in the heart, wherever your heart is, that is where your God is. You don't need to go to a specific place to worship God. I've not been to church for ages. And I'm not saying that's right. It's definitely not for many Christians. But it's not wrong either, because I still pray and I still read the Bible in the way that I do.
It's
I don't
interesting.
believe that's right or wrong. It's
You've
just
preempted some of the things that we'll study in year 9, haven't you?
yeah,
About the existence of God.
yeah.
Well, okay. That being the case, though, what sort of things what sort of practice might Sikhs engage in to remind themselves that God is everywhere? I wonder if some of the things that we've learned in this course already.
Yeah, you've mentioned already the soup kitchen. Because if they're able to go and volunteer for the soup kitchen or give money for the soup kitchen, they are doing service for God. That's good karma. That's good sewa. That's worship, just as much as going and singing or reading in a Gurdwara. Another thing they would do is go to Amritsar, where they've got the Golden Temple, the Sikh Holy Golden Temple. I can't remember which Guru established, but one of them bought the basin for it, and one of them, I think it was about the 6th one, actually had it started to be built. Now, it's got 4 doors, main doors, that face out to the 4 corners of the earth. Although we know there's no corners as such, it's metaphorical. A lot of Sikhs have, there's a massive waiting list to be able to read from the Guru Granth Sahib. It's basically never ending. There's a waiting list, I think about 20 years or something like that at one point, in order to be able to pay for the food for that day or for an hour. So people, pilgrims or just non-Sikhs, whatever, tourists even, will go and eat there and go again. That is part of it as well. It's also by taking Amrit, by becoming part of the Khalsa, by having the sort of baptism, by having street processions, wearing all your sort of proper Khalsa uniform as part of that Sikh, visible Sikh community anyway. It's about being part of a Sikh family. It's about maintaining Sikh traditions. It's about reading the Granth Sahib. It's about reciting the Mul Mantra. There's so many things. The great thing about the question you first posed is there's literally probably 100 answers, and if you only gave 4, you can get 12 out of 12. It's how you say, this is because, on the one hand, I agree because of this and this and this. I also disagree because my personal viewpoint is, and if you do that 3 or 4 times, you've nailed a 12 marker already.
And I suppose we're spending less time on this point, perhaps, because actually you can find the answers from the previous lessons that we've done. If you've done the 5Ks, that's another practice that seeks religion. If you've joined the Khalsa, there's another practice as well. And by saying what they are and how they're important for a Sikh. So, for example, 5Ks does remind people's commitment to God. And so does the Khalsa. If we can explain why these things are important by looking back at our prior knowledge, then that's important. I think people often feel that we're just doing independent lessons, standalone lessons, whereas that's far from the case. But, I think, within this lesson, we've also talked about the importance of Guru Granth Sahib. And you certainly don't need to visit Gurdwara to be able to access a copy of Guru Granth Sahib, do you?
Some people do have their own copy of. I've got a child coming in. Joshua, can I speak to you in a minute, darling? Thank you. Sorry. At least it wasn't live on TV. Some people do have a copy of Guru Granth Sahib at home, but it must be well looked after, and it must be woken up gently, and it must be put to sleep gently, put to bed gently, because it seems living Guru. So that is a massive responsibility. Not many people do. I know there's a clip that you've shared already. Or will share that exemplifies that. One thing I did want to say is also this: is if we think about, you don't need to be a Christian. We live in a Christian country, okay? All of our school holidays, bar summer, are Christian holidays, aren't they? I mean, Christmas, Easter, Whitsun, whatever. So it's all around us. I think what's also important is for many Christians, what is important to them is celebrating Christmas and celebrating Easter. No different for a Sikh. So the Hindu festival of Diwali is the festival of lights, their equivalent of the Christian Christmas and the Jewish Hanukkah. And the Sikh one is very, very similar. It's called Deepawali. That's part of being a Sikh, isn't it, as well, is celebrating festivals and those times together too. Do you see what I mean? There's so many answers. You've got a kanda behind you with the 2 kirpans and the kara in the middle, and then the central kirpan striking through to cut through to wisdom. Again, even just knowing what the kanda is, that's part of Sikh tradition too. That's
So I think the danger here, perhaps, in answering this question is to think, I can't think of any points directly relevant, but actually all the things that we've learned on this course probably is relevant, and we should be less hesitant in putting that down. It's a shame, perhaps, that we're not there to reassure our respective classes that actually that is relevant. So I'm going to do it here now. If you can think of a point that Sikhs would, about Sikhs doing something because that's what they've traditionally done, or that's what a guru have told them to do beforehand, then that's probably a point that you can put in, and that's probably something that is important to the Sikhs. But
one of the strongest points you can put in. It is one of the strongest. If you consider that Jesus said, take, eat, do this as often as you drink this in remembrance of me. Take, eat this, etc. Jesus commanded Christians to do the communion. Jesus commanded people to do various things. Buddha said to, one of the last things he said to his bhikkhus, his monks was, hero bhikkhus, everything is impermanent. So for Buddhists, they remember things impermanent. And students can refer to other religions in a Buddhism assessment for comparison. That's really good. That's strong knowledge, especially when it comes to Hinduism and Buddhism. But actually, following the lives of their gurus, crucial for a Sikh. Absolutely crucial, because the gurus are the exemplification of examples of how to get close to God. Well, in that case, there's nothing better really to do than to do that. The gurus didn't go to the Gurdwara, many of them, because there wasn't one. So it can't be the most important thing.
Look, we've gone through a lot of points, and there's a box that says conclusion at the bottom of my sheet. Okay. It says, what's your personal opinion? So I hope you don't feel too put on the spot. I know in these sort of questions, you often have to have a line of totally agree and totally disagree, and you've got to sort of put yourself somewhere. I wonder how you'd approach this question with your personal opinion.
So the way to imagine the conclusion is this. I've got just a cushion here. You've made your points one way. I agree because, I disagree because. The purpose of the conclusion is to zip it all together.
To draw a line.
Finish the whole thing off, yeah. And so I would say in my conclusion, whatever the 12-mark question was, it makes no difference. I agree with many of the points I've made. I also disagree with many of the points I've made. I don't think there is one specific answer. It is down to each individual. However, if I were to have to commit to one answer, I would say that no, not all worship has to take place in the Gurdwara, but it is still important. That is a strong conclusion. You're showing that you respect the arguments for and against. You might refer back to them. That's always a good thing to do. We know that from A level, but it's good to get into those habits now for GCSE as well. I agree with the points I made. I disagree with the points I made. However, my point overall is, and then just say what your viewpoint is. You can't be wrong as long as it's not racist, sexist, homophobic, ageist, ableist, whatever it might be. As long as there's no discrimination, your point has to be valid. But it's only valid if you say why. You must give substance.
And just to be clear, your answer to this question.
My answer to this question is, my personal viewpoint is, it is important for Sikhs to go to Gurdwara because it's part of their community. It's the central point of their community, and it's where they come together to show their faith together. However, it is not the most important thing. It is one of the most important things. It is important they celebrate festivals and Langa there. However, it's about how they live their life, and that is the most important worship to any god.
And of course, that's the message that was given to Guru Nanak in the river, wasn't it?
Yeah. 3 days is a long time to get a lot of information, and that's a good summary of it. Live life well, be good.
Well, I don't think there's any better points to end this discussion than that. I do really feel that we've benefited from Mr. Ainsley as the guru of this session. So at this point, I'm going to say namaste and thank you very much for the
I've really enjoyed leaving through the Guru Granth Sahib with you today and taking through the Gurdwara with you and to discuss some of the key issues with thanks to Mr. Ainsley for that. There are one or two more tasks that you can do. We're not asking you to do more than 100 minutes worth of work because you have rights. So the summary questions present you two questions that might come up in assessments or your GCSE exam, whereas the going further task is something for you to think further about the topics that we've discussed today. If you have time, then go for them. So in the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed the lesson, and if there's questions, make sure you email your teachers or email myself. They don't have to be questions about how you do something, they could be curiosity questions, questions about to extend your learning as well. We're here to do that because we know even if we're distance learning, even if we're doing that, we are still able to support you. Right, I'm going to go back to my reading now because I know how enriching reading stuff is. In the meantime, stay safe and see you in the next episode.